All right. So again, 7 squares, 0 through 6. Make sure that you have this in your drawing. Again, it doesn't matter if you have it here in the bottom right left corner, if you have it over here on this side, it does not matter. Okay, what matters is that you have it there because I want you to be referencing it when you're doing your drawing. Okay, so remember the goal is to shade it so that you can make these look, instead of them being flat, you want them to look curved, right? So let's say I'm done with the design. Obviously, this isn't done. I would add more than this, right? Because some of these spaces are super big, right? The goal is to fill as much of the page as you possibly can um, with the tubes. Let me just make one here. And remember, you can change the size of the tubes. Actually, let me have this one go over that one. Do I recommend you sticking to thinner tubes or wider tubes? I would not say one is better than the other. I think it kind of depends on whether you like to work in smaller spaces or bigger spaces, right? I don't, I have a hard time sometimes getting into small spaces, so I prefer like medium to bigger spaces, right? Okay, let me go ahead and show you this one right here. It's probably the smallest one I have, right? Again, I'm going to use a piece of paper to block or cover so I can rest my hand on top of this paper, not on my drawing to smudge it. So one of the biggest challenges you'll have besides the shading is keeping your paper clean, smudge free from pencil or even your fingers, right? So please be aware of that. Okay. Someone tell me where I should put the highlight. Remember, you can put it wherever you'd like. Someone give me center, right, or left. All right, Isaac says center. All right, I'll do the center, which means I'm going to make the left or the bottom and the top darker. Again, I have a heavy hand, so I'm going to start in the dark areas, right? And remember, we want to start in small sections and then work our way towards the other sections. And again, we're referencing these, right? So we want to have all of this 6 through 0 going here, 6 to 0 in the center, and then 0 to 6 going to the. Now, this is a small space, right? So we have to fit all of these values in that small space. So you have to think about how much space you have for each one of those little values. So that change, that gradual change needs to happen quick in here. So let me go ahead and I'll go over to the other side before I move in a little closer. And then fade out that 6. Be mindful of the amount of pressure you're putting down on your paper. All right, now here, let me zoom in so you guys can see that a little better. I did not do this, right? Because I was moving my pencil in circular motions, therefore hiding the strokes of the paper, of the pencil, right? All right, I'm gonna take the Q-tip since it's in a small area. And I'm just gonna fade that side or blend it. Be mindful of the outside edge since the Q-tip is not. Say that again, Elizabeth. However many you need to cover the paper, right? Well, are they super big? Then you need to put more because the whole thing is to cover the paper, right? And go ahead and shade that area. So keep that in mind. Okay. And if at any point in time you're not sure whether yours is looking correct or how it's looking, remember to look at the examples that I post on the assignment page, right? And so now all I'm doing is just going, I mean, I could go and do this whole edge on number 6 if I wanted to, if I just wanted to focus on the 6 and maybe 5, and then slowly go in and add the other ones. You can, if you say you want to do all the number 6s first in this section. Yeah, you could. But again, be mindful of the time, be mindful of how you're doing it, right? The thing that takes the longest, again, is the shading. The drawing of your tube does not take that long, right? If anything, that's probably the fastest portion of this assignment. And I'm just going and doing this. This is very similar to what Vika Selman's does in her drawings, right? Because they're elaborate and they're time consuming and they're small, right? So you can already see how that section is starting to take shape and it's looking more rounded as opposed to flat like an outline, right? You can choose. So sometimes people will ask, what do I do here? Do I, since this one's on top, this tube is on top, a shadow would be underneath it to this one, or depending on where the light's coming from too. So I like to make it look like this one will be on top. So I'll put a little shadow underneath hitting the tube right below it, and then take my Q-tip and fade it out. Again, I'm just using the HB pencil. I'm not using any of the other drawing pencils like the B's or even the H pencils, okay? Let me show you what we don't want to do or what it shouldn't look like on this section here. If you're doing it like this, you can tell how more not clean or sloppy this looks compared to this, right? So even if you say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and just take the Q-tip now and blend it. I just got rid of all of that 0 through maybe 2. And that's straight. Well, no, this is probably like yeah, this is a 2 in there. And remember, just because you have an eraser doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to get straight back to 0. And the other thing that people will do is if they, here, let me do that again. They'll just fill it in like this, right? And they'll say, oh, I'll just bring out the zeros and the 1s and the 2s with my eraser. Well, if you go too dark, it's not going to show up easily. The other thing that people forget is they'll do this and forget to blend this or fade this out. It shouldn't be a line there. Remember, we don't want to have these lines showing up between each value. We want it to be a smooth, gradual change between those values. So you can use your eraser to bring those out, and you can also use your eraser to kind of fade them out depending on how much pressure you're applying. So you see how I got rid of that line now? Not fully yet, but enough so that I can now use the Q-tip and fade it or blend it more, okay? When drawing or shading, it's always easy to determine or see if a person really took a lot of time and effort into creating the shading, or if they did it super quick. It's not something you can easily lie about when it comes to the drawing portion of it, okay? So just be aware of that, right? And also, I've been drawing for half of my life, so I can tell when certain things don't look right, okay? And that just comes with time and the number of times I've drawn or shaded something, right? So now compare that space to the rest, right? That part of the tube looks like it's curved, right? I can obviously add a little bit more. Remember, the little details are what make a big difference. If you focus on those little details, they'll make your drawing pop out more or be more noticeable. That's my Q-tip. Questions as I'm doing this or finishing this up? And yes, this will seem a little repetitive, but remember, the better you do this and the more accustomed you get to doing this, the easier it'll be when we start shading actual objects, which we will do. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing this. All right, I'm gonna grab my eraser, this one, because it's a little thinner. I'm just gonna lightly drag it through the center just to bring out those lighter values a little bit more. And if those lines here, see how there's a sharp line right here? I'm just gonna go with the eraser and just lightly tap it along that edge so that it fades out a little bit more, and then take the Q-tip and also blend it or fade out that line. Okay, so that's how I want you to start, right? And that's how they should look, or all of them should look, no matter how skinny they are, how wide they are. I still want you to make sure that it looks like that for each one. Okay.